What's up, motherfucks? It's your boy, the Hater, and guess what? WrestleMania weekend is upon us. I almost forgot that today is night one of NXT Stand and Get Cucked. You know what I'm saying? Now, I think we can all agree there's virtually nothing to look forward to today unless you care about Io Shirai versus Raquel Gonzalez. You know what I mean? I personally don't give a rat's ass about this. The tag team match is something to look forward to, and the Eliminator match is gonna be entertaining. Look, compared to our random episode of NXT, this is gonna be better. You know, it's gonna be better than a random episode of NXT. You know, Friday Night SmackDown is gonna be like the pre-show to WrestleMania. Basically, they have like these matches that are for the titles, you know, important things like that. But let's call it like it is, motherfucks. You know, this event, this NXT, the fact that it's 2 nights, is enough for all of us to really kind of understand that basically this is just an attempt to make everyone feel significant. You know what I mean? That's why we have all these multi-man matches and things like that. No one really gives a ball sack about any of this, but the facts are what the facts are. It does, even though it doesn't feel like WrestleMania season, this WrestleMania feels like a fast lane, you know what I mean? It's like a fast lane level pay-per-view. If that, you know those pay-per-views back in the day when it would be like, I don't know, Dolph Ziggler versus Zack Ryder? Like every match, this WrestleMania feels like Dolph Ziggler versus Zack Ryder. Like every match has the amount of star power of Dolph Ziggler versus Zack Ryder, except for the main event, because it has Edge. That's literally it. Like if you had taken Edge out of this and the match was Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan, it would feel like Dolph Ziggler versus Zack Ryder. It would be on that level. You know what I mean? Like, I really don't get it. You know, they have so many jabrones on this card. You know, as a matter of fact, before we start actually talking about NXT and Stand Deliver and our predictions for it, let's really quickly look to see, how many people and what kind of people are going to be competing at WrestleMania. So just the male superstars, because the female superstars, it's always been like that, right? So we have Lashley, who's great, and Drew McIntyre, who is basically Dolph Ziggler, all right? Nobody cares, you know? Nobody cares. Honestly, let's be real. Like I said, last year, Lashley was wrestling Aleister Black, and he lost to Aleister Black. Enough said, motherfucks. Enough said. This would be like the equivalent of Stone Cold losing to Bull Buchanan one year WrestleMania, and then wrestling, like, I don't know, Godfather the next year. Let's call it like it is, right? Except Bobby Lashley's obviously not as good as Stone Cold, you know? Then we have Bad Bunny and Damian Priest versus Miz and Morrison in this year's like celebrity match. But actually, I'm excited for this one because I do believe it's one of the more entertaining matches of both nights. As a matter of fact, of all nights, right? Because it's going to be fun. Damian Priest is fun to watch. The Miz and Morrison are fun to watch. And Bad Bunny adds a pay-per-view element. He adds a WrestleMania feel to it, you know? Bad Bunny is one of the only people that we might only see in WrestleMania, right? He's like Shane McMahon, except like 50,000 times more entertaining. You know what I mean? New Day versus AJ Styles and Omos could easily be a Raw, first hour match, and probably will happen again on Monday, this Monday, as a rematch of some sort. Like, I almost guarantee it. Braun Strowman, the experiment has failed. Shane McMahon, you know, I remember when he came back and people were pretending that this was like a huge deal. Oh, Shane's back. Oh my God, things are going to change. No, they aren't. He's not there to provide any change. He's just there to be another wrestler, right? Shane has dropped the ball. He's not good at what he does, right? Like, he's going to be good for his one spot, and that's fine. You know, like, good for him. Like, I want to see the spot. That's it. Cesaro versus Rollins. I mean, this has pre-show written all over it, right? Seth Rollins is another one. He's like a reverse Bobby Lashley. You know what I'm saying? Like, he went from the main event 2 years ago, like beating Brock Lesnar in like a minute and a half, to then having like a competitive upper mid-card feud with Kevin Owens, and now being in what can only be described as the undercard against Cesaro. You know what I'm saying? This is the undercard, motherfucks. This is the match that's probably going to go on second. You know what I'm saying? Like, as it should. The match that nobody cares about. Then we have Lana, Naomi, and Dana Brooke, and all that shit. Like, who cares about that? And of course, the Women's SmackDown Championship match. Nobody cares about that either. Then the next day, so thus far, out of all these people, right, in my opinion, except for Bad Bunny, everyone here is a mid-carder or below. You know what I'm saying? Like, none of these guys, maybe AJ Styles, you can argue, is a main event level talent. Everyone else is a mid-card talent, right? I don't care if Drew McIntyre wrestles Randy Orton 19 times. Randy Orton also feels like a mid-carder, you know? Bobby Lashley, he's been a mid-carder his entire career up until like last month. So I'm not really like on board with Lashley being considered this like great main event guy. Does he have the potential to? Of course. Does he deserve it? No doubt about it, motherfuckers. But the facts are what the facts are. Bobby Lashley is a mid-carder who this year is going to be a main eventer. You know, and that's all it is. That's all it is. Just like when Seth Rollins was a main eventer 2 years ago, and now he's in the undercard. You know, there's absolutely no consistency whatsoever between the booking of superstars, right? Kofi Kingston was WWE champion, you know, and just like that, he loses it immediately in 5 seconds to Brock Lesnar, and it's treated as if he was never champion. Immediately, he's in the tag team scene again. You know what I mean? As if nothing changed. Like, at least, for example, Big E's push is much better than Kofi Kingston's push, because Big E was separated from the New Day, right? And he was made a mid-card champion on SmackDown, right? And he is, like, if he loses the IC title, he's still Big E by himself. He doesn't just immediately get recycled back to the New Day, unless that's what they decide to do. And then it's also a failure, you know? But at least Big E was put out on his own, you know? He was segmented from the New Day. So you have all these jobbers, Cesaro and Seth Rollins. I mean, Cesaro has been an undercard guy for the last 8 years. Seth Rollins is now an undercard guy by virtue of fighting and likely losing to Cesaro, you know? Who cares about this match? This is like, and also, what are the consequences of these matches? This is the real question we should ask. What are the consequences? Like if Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair in that match, what are the consequences? If Bianca Belair wins, like, okay, she won the Rumble and you know, and now she became champion. So that's obviously like a career highlight for her. However, like, I guarantee that in 3 or 4 months, she's going to drop the title back probably to Sasha Banks. You know what I mean? I don't see Bianca Belair having this long title run. And if she does, who cares, right? She and Sasha Banks are like the exact same character. You know what I mean? Like don't get caught up in the little details, right? The little details like, oh, Bianca Belair is the EST and has like a big ponytail that she uses in wrestling matches. And Sasha Banks is the boss. Don't get caught up in the nicknames, right? The characters are exactly the same. It's the same character. One's a face and one's a heel, but it's the same character. The character is, I'm better than you. That's the character. Sasha Banks is like, I'm better than you. Bianca Belair's character literally is, I'm the best there is, so I'm better than you, right? It's the same character. Who cares? Like, you could have this match next year at WrestleMania and just completely flip everything. Have Sasha Banks win the Royal Rumble and have Bianca Belair be the champion and have Bianca Belair be the heel and Sasha the face. And absolutely nothing would change. It would be the exact same build-up, the exact same match. Therefore, the consequences of this match are nearly zero, motherfuckers. They are nearly zero. Lashley and Drew, same thing. Same thing, motherfuckers. You know this feud is not going to end at WrestleMania. That's another problem that wrestling has. WrestleMania is no longer the logical conclusion to feuds and doesn't serve as a hard reset for the next season, right? The underpinnings of WrestleMania are this. Stone Cold beats The Rock at WrestleMania 17, and things are fundamentally different the next night on Raw, right? Stone Cold is now a heel. The Rock is now like a super face, right? And they're not going to meet each other for a while, right? That's the underpinnings. Like Stone Cold, I think afterwards they went on to feud with like the Brothers of Destruction. Him and Triple H teamed up, started feuding against the Brothers of Destruction, right? The clear feud there is Rock Austin, right? But we're not going to do that yet, motherfuckers. We're going to do that in the future, right? That feud did continue because eventually, after like the alliance and the invasion angle started, right? The culmination of the invasion angle was still Stone Cold versus Rock, right? It was still that. Like that was going to be the feud, but for a while you can't continue the feud. The more recent trend, the last few years, is that WrestleMania, right? Just pretty much starts the feud. And then the next month, at whatever, Money in the Bank now, or Fastlane, or Extreme Rules, it is just a continuation of the same thing, right? Like, you can rest assured that at Money in the Bank, after WrestleMania, it's going to probably be Edge versus Roman Reigns. It's probably going to be Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre, right? This takes away from WrestleMania, right? So there you have it. Both these guys feel like mid-carders. No one cares. Bad Bunny, I like him. He's doing good. Night 2, it ain't much better, motherfuckers. It ain't much better. You need Edge to pretty much save this event because Edge is a fresh face. He hasn't been around for a long time. So Edge being here really adds something to it, right? But think about what we're doing. We have to bring back a 47-year-old Edge because there's no stars. There are no stars. Daniel Bryan is no longer a star, and he hasn't been a main eventer for years. Since he's come back, I mean, he was WWE champion for a while, but he was not a main eventer then either, right? Roman Reigns, this guy has never gotten over. You know, putting him with Paul Heyman is basically the last-ditch effort, right? It's the last-ditch effort. The only two people where it hasn't been a last-ditch effort, of course, are Brock Lesnar and CM Punk, who got over on their own, right? Paul Heyman has never helped anyone get over. Not one time. He has not helped Roman Reigns get over. Roman Reigns is not over. Roman Reigns, people dislike him because he's a heel, but they would dislike him if he was a face, because there's nothing compelling about Roman Reigns. You know, this whole head of the table thing is not compelling. It's not a good storyline. And furthermore, it's already over. It went on for 4 months just to have Jey Uso be aligned with Roman Reigns. Why shouldn't Jey Uso just be aligned, period? They're family, right, motherfucks? So there you have it, right? Asuka versus Rhea Ripley. This match has, like, no one cares written all over it. The Fiend versus Randy Orton is easily the worst match in the history of WrestleMania. If you took this match out and you put in Arya Daivari versus Tony Nese, I would be more interested in that than I am in The Fiend versus Randy Orton. The only way that this match can go well is if John Cena comes out, right, and does like a double FU to both of these guys, pins them both at the same time, and then throws them into like a pit of lava or something, so we never have to see either of these two assholes again, right? Randy Orton started the year off strong, but now he's had a terrible year. I don't like it. Big E versus Apollo Crews. I mean, the fact that you're calling this a Nigerian drum fight is, in my opinion, preposterous, you know, and borderline insensitive. Now, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, right? Like, Apollo Crews' new gimmick is that he's a Nigerian, like, guy with, like, an accent, you know? So I actually like that. But the facts are what the facts are. It's like, Nigerian drum fight. What the fuck is a Nigerian drum fight, you know? How is that going to put asses in seats, you know? Call it what it is. Like, if you called it a hardcore match, I think it'd be much more attractive, right? Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn in what hopefully is both of their last matches in this company. I'm tired of these guys. They've been complete failures. They have flopped entirely. Their careers have not gone well in WWE. Kevin Owens, here's how you know. Kevin Owens started off hot, and he has progressively gone down and down and down and down the card, you know, in the last few years. That's how you know, motherfucks. Riddle versus Sheamus. Riddle is one of the few people on this entire card, both days, that actually has a gimmick. You know what I'm saying? Riddle, his gimmick comes natural to him. It's part of his, I think, I would assume, his real personality, but it is a gimmick nonetheless. And he is one of the only people, along with arguably Asuka, that has a gimmick, you know? And I guess I have to say it like it is. The Fiend has a gimmick, but it's just like one of the worst gimmicks of all time, right? Nobody else has a gimmick. Everybody else is just their personality turned into like some sort of like name, right? So like the New Day, just two nerds. They're like, oh, we're the New Day. Like, what the fuck does the New Day even mean? But whatever, it is what it is, right? So Riddle versus Sheamus. I hope Riddle wins. Sheamus, like, I mean, I get it. He's like a guy that can put on a decent match. So why not stick him in here? But again, Sheamus is now on the level of Zack Ryder. Sheamus is one of those people. Like, Sheamus has a Hall of Fame worthy resume, but he does not feel like a Hall of Famer. He does not feel like a main eventer. You know what I'm saying? Someone who has won everything there is to win. Sheamus has won King of the Ring, the Royal Rumble, motherfucks, Money in the Bank, like 5-time world champion, right? Multiple-time mid-card champion and tag team champion. Sheamus should be in the main event permanently. You know what I'm saying? Sheamus versus Bobby Lashley, for example, should be a competitive match that is pay-per-view worthy. I don't know why Drew McIntyre is taking Sheamus' spot, in my opinion, but it is what it is. So, in summation, all of WrestleMania just feels like a big mid-card jobber fest, right? Edge and Bad Bunny are the only people that elevate this card. Can you believe what I'm saying? Edge, who was retired up until like a year and a half ago, and Bad Bunny, who's like a 24-year-old reggaeton artist, right? These two guys are the ones that are actually making this feel, motherfucks, like a WrestleMania. You know, I'm sure they'll have some performances and stuff like that, and maybe some celebrity guests. You know, the fact that there's going to be a crowd is gonna help as well. But the facts are what the facts are. This feels very much so, cucks, like a glorified episode of Monday Night Raw. Now, or maybe at most like a Fastlane or a Great Balls of Fire, right? Now, on the NXT side, we have a bunch of shit that nobody wants to see, but we have some interesting elements just because of the fact that NXT is presented as the future. So, for example, while it doesn't matter if Io Shirai or Raquel Gonzalez, doesn't matter who wins, right? Because it's the same thing as the Bianca Belair thing and Sasha Banks thing, right? But there is an element of interestingness here, right? If Raquel Gonzalez wins, best bet is Io Shirai shows up on Monday Night Raw or SmackDown next week, honestly, right? And Raquel Gonzalez probably is going to win. This probably is the way to go. Put Io Shirai on the main event where she can have a Kairi Sane career and then bounce out of here. You know what I'm saying? Beat it, kid. You've done your job. You were NXT champion. That's all we needed you for. You know, which is a shame because Io Shirai, I think, is the best out of all these Japanese females that have come. She's the best. She's the most attractive. You know, I'm pretty sure she's like the youngest now, except for Io Shirai, who doesn't count because she sucks. You know, oh, Io Shirai is the best elbow in the business. Shut the fuck up with that bullshit, right? Whereas Raquel Gonzalez, if she wins, she can be positioned as being someone that's going to be the future of the women's division, right? She can be like Shayna Baszler was supposed to be, except better, because Raquel Gonzalez is better than Shayna Baszler. Raquel Gonzalez is more entertaining than Shayna Baszler, you know, and she's a big broad, so that's exciting, you know what I mean? Then we have the same exact concept, MSK versus Grizzled Young Vets versus Legado del Fantasma, right? Legado del Fantasma, Raul Mendoza, and Joaquin Wilde are going to end up on 205 Live. We all know this. You know what I'm saying? Like, we all know that that's going to be their ceiling, right? It's going to be that, or they're going to join Lucha House Party. Like, there's no other explanation. These guys don't have what it takes. I mean, I like them both. I think Raul Mendoza is like the best one. Like I've said it many times, out of all these like unmasked Hispanic wrestlers. The facts are what the facts are. The company's really not behind them. You know what I mean? So I don't think they're going to win. Grizzled Young Veterans and MSK both have the capacity to be, obviously, SmackDown or Raw Tag Team Champions. Like, I think MSK and Grizzled Young Vets are way better than things like fucking Street Profits. You know what I mean? Like, who gives a fuck about that, right? They're a better tag team than Bobby Roode and Dolph Ziggler, right? So these guys, whoever wins, might be positioned to be one day like a standout in the tag team division in the future. Probably not, but it's possible, right? And arguably, you could say the same thing about the six-man gauntlet eliminator match tonight, right? One of these guys is obviously going to get a push. These are all like undercard guys for the most part, right? LA Knight is presented as like a big deal, but let's be real. These are all undercard-ish guys. You know, obviously, I believe Dexter Lumis is going to win, and I think he's going to beat Johnny Gargano. But I would be okay, of course, with Cameron Grimes as well. Everybody else, I mean, I think everybody else deserves to be fired. You know, keep Leon Ruff. Leon Ruff is entertaining in his own way, but everyone else just beat it. Like, they're never going to achieve anything in this company. Then we have Walter versus Tommaso Ciampa, which I believe is going to be a good match. Hopefully, I'm pretty sure Walter's going to win. Tommaso Ciampa, like, this experiment has failed. Like, let's be real. This guy doesn't feel like a main eventer. He never should have been NXT champion. This guy sucks, you know? But Walter is legit. He's big. He's strong. He has a certain look, right? He doesn't really have a gimmick, but Imperium has like a sub gimmick, I guess you could call it. So I hope Walter wins and beats the shit out of. I hope he just beats the shit out of Ciampa. It's one of those like Ciampa got beat so bad that he's gone for like 6 months. Maybe he can come back and reinvent himself. Maybe shave his head. He looks like an old man. You know, this guy's like in his late 30s. He looks like he's 60. Like, it's so weird. He's not even in his late 30s. He's 35, man. He was cutting that promo last week. He's like, the old Ciampa. People are saying the old Ciampa is gone, that I'm too old. What do you mean you're too old? You're 35. You should be in your prime. Walter's 33. How is he too old? It's not that. He looks old. He looks like a dwarf. You know? He's got like a gray beard and gray hair with a bald spot. Like, this guy, like, he looks like he's 60. You know what I mean? He has the physique of a guy who's like in his 30s, but his head, like neck and above, looks like a 60-year-old. You know? He looks like a wizard. So anyways, that's that. Pete Dunne versus Kushida. This is a completely meaningless throwaway match. This, nobody cares who wins. Nobody cares, and nothing's going to change. If they had any kind of balls, they would make this for a number one contenders title, to even like the cruiserweight title or something. You know, do something with this. This is just a match. Like, this is a match that could easily happen on NXT. You know, like, how is it any different than Pete Dunne versus Roderick Strong? You know, it's the same exact match. Nobody cares at all. So this match is a very skippable match. I predict it's going to be match number 2 on the card, because it's the least relevant of all these matches, and it involves two people that honestly have dropped the ball big time. Kushida has done absolutely nothing. Pete Dunne has been a colossal failure. Let's be real, right? Then we have night 2, just as bad, if not worse. Pete Dunne's 27. I remember when he was like 22. Yeah, like 5 years of nothing, basically. All right, so next up we have Finn Balor versus Karrion Kross. I mean, this match has nobody cares written all over it. Like, it doesn't matter if Karrion Kross becomes champion again. He probably will be. Who cares? Like why would this change? It's not going to change anything. You know what I mean? Like, Finn Balor might go back to Raw, which would be like embarrassing. Or he might continue feuding with Karrion Kross and turn into the Demon if he doesn't tomorrow. But nobody really cares. I mean, let's be real. Nobody really gives a flying fuck about this match. It has no real implications. Like, the NXT title means absolutely nothing, so who cares? Then we have Adam Cuck and Cuck O'Reilly in another meaningless match. This match is meaningless because it doesn't matter who wins. Like no difference will be made if Kyle O'Reilly wins or if Adam Cole wins. Either way, Undisputed Era is done, right? It's finished. So who cares who wins? You know, both of these matches, these two main events, The only way that this works is if someone awesome debuts, right? Like one of my subscribers said that in the Shane Braun match, Dabba-Kato might come and save Shane McMahon. That's a fantastic idea. That's a fantastic idea because Dabba-Kato is a big motherfucker, and he, when Braun ruined Raw Underground, he essentially ruined Dabba-Kato's push. Dabba-Kato was drafted to Raw. You know what I'm saying? He hasn't been there once. And Dabba-Kato is a guy that has an interesting look. He's like Polish, but like he's also like African. He's like half Polish, half African. So he has this like really, really like he's a big motherfucker, and he has this really interesting background, and he has a look, and he looks like an intimidating guy. So like Dabba-Kato can actually be someone that stands out. You know what I mean? He might actually be like a more interesting version, let's say, of like Samoa Joe or Braun Strowman or anything like that. So that would be good, right? And I feel like the same thing needs to happen for Finn Balor versus Cuck Cross or Adam Cuck and Cuck O'Reilly, because by itself, these matches are just not going to be entertaining. Maybe like some big time signing, like debuts and attacks Finn Balor or Karrion Kross at the end or something, like maybe Walter attacks one of them and they just establish themselves as like Imperium establishes themselves as having moved to like the real NXT. Walter, here's what should happen. Karrion Kross should beat Finn Balor in a competitive match. Walter should come and attack them both. And then next NXT TakeOver, Walter versus Karrion Kross. Walter should bury Karrion Kross immediately. He should squash him. And Walter should have a 3-year NXT title run, culminating with him winning the Royal Rumble. He is the only one left, right? You can make an argument for Velveteen Dream, but he's not around, motherfucks. He's not around. Walter is the only one left in the entirety of NXT that has any potential to be a WWE champion. Like any serious potential. Karrion Kross, you could force him. You could force Karrion Kross to have a title run. You could force Adam Cole, but neither of them are interesting. Walter actually is. He has great matches, and he's strong and big and has a stable, and a stable that makes sense to a degree. Not really a great stable, but a stable that makes sense nonetheless. He's the only one that deserves a gargantuan NXT push. So that's what should happen. Probably not what's going to happen, but that's what should happen. Then on night 2, we're going to have Johnny Gargano versus the Gauntlet Eliminator winner, which will likely be fucking Dexter Lumis. This match is meaningful only because it could serve as a stepping stone for Dexter Lumis to eventually go to Raw, right? That's really what needs to happen. Dexter Lumis, honestly, why don't you just reform the Dexter Lumis, Jackson Riker tag team, right? From TNA, where they're these two like post-traumatic stress disorder guys, right? Like one of them is crazy because he's been through a lot of shit, and the other one is just a shell-shocked veteran, right? Like that actually is interesting. It's a gimmick, Call them the Lost Sons. You know what I'm saying? Do it again, motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? So we have that, and then we have Jordan Devlin versus Santos Escobar, which I have no doubt will be a good match. But again, it's a meaningless match. Like they're both already a cruiserweight champion. Neither of these guys has a ceiling that's greater than what it is now. So it doesn't really matter who wins. Like they could feud for the next 5 years and no one would care. And then we have Ember Moon and Shotzi Blackheart versus The Way for the Women's Tag Team Championship match in this night's must-skip match, right? Not nearly as bad as Fiend versus Orton, but pretty damn close, motherfucks. Ember Moon and Shotzi Blackheart have to be the worst tag team in the history of tag teams. Like their entire gimmick is that they're two weirdos that go, ooh, yeah, whatever, who gives a fuck, right? The Way at least is a faction, so I hope The Way wins. They're a more organic tag team than Ember Moon and Shotzi Blackheart, which is just like, let's put these two people together because they have nothing to do. So as you can see, cucks, nothing good to look forward to tonight or tomorrow or this weekend. But the facts are what the facts are. None of us really care about this. Nobody really is looking forward to any of this garbage. And but yet here we are. I mean, I will say this. The good thing, just like last year, motherfucks, right? Obviously, last year's WrestleMania, in my opinion, was the worst one. This year's just gonna make it look like fucking WrestleMania 17. But last year's WrestleMania was the worst one. However, it was 2 nights, and 2 nights are better than one, motherfucks. And this year's WrestleMania festivities, I'm not gonna count SmackDown, like the SmackDown WrestleMania edition, who gives a shit. But this year, with these 2 NXTs and the 2 WrestleManias, that's 4 events basically, right? 4 events, and in 4 events, in 4 nights of elite, quote unquote, level wrestling, right? Or at least important wrestling that's presented as being a big deal, something has to happen, right? Something has to happen. Someone needs to return. Someone needs to debut. We need to have like a insane like shift in like the paradigm of wrestling. We need to have someone turn heel or face that nobody would expect. Something like this needs to happen. Maybe a gimmick change. And not as I'm going down the list, I'm like, a gimmick change, like what's next? A guy changes his haircut, So like something big needs to happen. And I feel like it's a safe bet that in 4 nights, something will happen. And at the end of the day, next month is Money in the Bank, which obviously is one of the more interesting pay-per-views, right? So maybe one of the people in NXT moves up to the main roster. A lot of things can happen. WrestleMania season is always interesting, at least more interesting than, let's say, Backlash, right? So I am looking forward to it from that perspective. But the facts are what the facts are. The majority of these 2 cards are not entertaining. Nobody wants to see this, I did a retrospective review of WrestleMania 17 that I'm going to post later tonight because there really is no other time to post it. I guess I could post it on Friday, but I'm going to post it later tonight probably, or Friday, because tomorrow I'm going to do tomorrow I'm going to do the review of tonight's show, and then the day after I'm going to do the review of this other show. So I don't know exactly how I'm going to do it, but the point is I did a retrospective review of WrestleMania 17, and I went down the card, and every match either had meaning or was amazing. In these 4 cards, neither of those things are true for basically any match. So there you have it, cucks. With that being said, I'll see you guys either later tonight or perhaps tomorrow, motherfucks. But definitely by tomorrow. So suck a fat one, cucks.